Why is it hard for me to get along with everyone and feel connected to them, especially friends? It's difficult for us as INFJs to make friends because we don't like to be open about ourselves. It's always been difficult for me. I've always had a problem making friends. Another one of the reasons why it's difficult for me is because I'm not interested in the things that most people are interested in. I always felt like I was a lot older than the people that I was in school with when I was like in grade school and college, because they were always interested in things that I felt like were so trivial. They were interested in the latest fashion things, shoes and purses and makeup and stuff like that. And I thought it was just so ridiculous. Like, why do you sit around for hours and talking about the new shoes that you bought? Like, why do you want to go to the mall and look at 12 different places that have shoes? Why don't you just pick one and move on to something else? For me, I wanted to read books. I wanted to talk about ideas and concepts, and nobody else wanted to talk about that. They all thought that I was strange for doing that. When I got to college, high school and college, people were talking a lot about dating. And my older sister used to torture me with all these dating advice books. And every once in a while, she would find one that she was just stuck on and she loved, and it was awesome, and it was great advice. And so she would make me read it, and I would sit there and read it and feel like my brain was literally melting while I was reading it, because it was just such trivial nonsense to me. The advice in these books was like, you've got to be joking. People actually do this? Like, no wonder so many people marry the wrong people, like, why would you play games with people? Why don't you just sit down and talk about your feelings and find somebody, talk about like the meaning of life and the best book that you read, and watch a documentary and talk about, those types of ideas and things. Like, why would you intentionally cook a bad dinner just to make sure that your boyfriend won't ever ask you to cook dinner again? Like, that's insane. Like, don't you want to impress them with your cooking skills, whether you can or not? Don't you want to let them know that you can take care of them? And so, I mean, for me, like, dating to me was always not fun. It was like still like torture. I don't want to date people just to date. I want to find somebody to spend the rest of my life with. And so I was always a lot more serious about dating than other people were too. So, I mean, I think that there's a lot of reasons why it's hard for us to get along with people. Even now, a lot of my friends talk about shows like The Bachelor and The Real Housewives of whatever. And I'm like, I can't watch those shows. I've tried. And it's like, I tried to watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and no offense to the Kardashians, but to me, the stuff that they talk about on the show is like mind numbing. It's like, why talk about that kind of stuff? You talk about so many other things. You can read some of the best books that have ever been written by anyone ever alive, or you can talk about what color of lipstick is the best one to wear. I mean, it's, and the people, like, there's some people at work who, when we were in the office, they had like this lunch club where everybody would go out to lunch, and they would literally spend 2 or 3 hours every single day negotiating on where to go to lunch so that 10 or 15 of them could go to lunch at the same place, or go get lunch and then bring it back to the office. And to me, I'm like, why do I want to negotiate with 10 people about where I'm going to eat? Doesn't it make more sense for me to just go to the place that I want to eat and then eat? Why does this need to be a 3-hour process? That's not fun for me. That's like torture. So I think that's a big problem. That's a lot of it, is like the things that we think are important, the things that we find fun and enjoyable, are not the same things that a lot of people find fun and enjoyable. They're not the same things that people think are important. And that's not the end of the world to me. It used to be. I used to be really worried that nobody liked me, that I didn't have any friends, and that, nobody invited me to their birthday parties. I didn't go to sleepovers like everybody else did. it used to bother me a lot, but now I just really don't care. I would rather buy my own lunch and eat lunch by myself, because then I don't have to negotiate with people and I don't have to deal with all of them talking about all the things they're talking about. You know, a lot of them like to watch sports too. Since I moved to Boston, you know, there's a lot of people talk about football and baseball and basketball and hockey, and I'm like, I can't. That's not interesting to me. I don't want to talk about that. It's not, I don't want to know about it. I don't want to watch it so that I can participate in the conversation. I have better things to do. So, I mean, obviously that's a reason that we don't feel connected to people, because we're not interested in the same things that they are. They're not interested in the things that we're interested in either. I would really encourage you to find friends who have a similar personality type. Since I've started my blog and my Instagram account and everything, I found a lot of friends who are INFJs, and it helps immensely because they are interested in the same things that I'm interested in. They want to talk about the meaning of life, and they want to sit around for hours and talk about it. They like to read books that are like, you know, talk about concepts like the meaning of life, like how to make your life better. They like to watch documentaries, the same ones that I watch. And so, you know, I think that's how you find people that you feel really connected to and find people that you get along with really well. It doesn't necessarily have to be that you get along with everybody. You can change your personality, or you can change your outward projection of your personality to get along with other people. I've done that in the past. I've tried. I've put forth an effort. I've watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I watched football for a few seasons, you know. I have watched series on TV that other people liked just to have something to talk about with them. It didn't change the fact that I didn't like football or that I didn't like the series that I was watching. And it didn't make me feel more connected to them once I knew something about what they were talking about. It just made me feel more bored. It made me feel kind of disappointed with myself, because I put so much time and effort to trying to get somebody else to like me when I didn't really even like them. So, I mean, I would consider all of the options there before you start trying to get people to like you. It's really easy to fall into that trap, you know, but you have to really think about, do you really like them? Is that somebody that you really want to spend a lot of time with? Do you really want to watch football every single week just to have something to talk about with this person? Because they're going to think that you like football, and then you're going to have to do it forever. And you might feel like it's torture to do that. And then eventually, maybe 6 months down the road, maybe a year or 2 years or 5 years, you're going to realize you don't want to watch football anymore. And they're not going to know who you are as a person, because you've told them that you like football, or you've told them that you like the Kardashians, or you've told them that you like shopping when you really don't. And so it's almost like you create this whole other persona of yourself just to fit in with what this person likes. And then when you finally give up the ruse of like, you know what, I don't really like football, I don't really like shopping, I don't really like the Kardashians, you're not going to have anything in common with them. And they're going to feel like you lied to them, because you kind of did. And they're not going to like you because they didn't like you to begin with. They liked the person that you became so that they would like you. So I would encourage you to really, really think about, you know, the people that you want to get along with, the people that you want to feel connected with. And to be honest, I think that's the best way to go. How do you say no to a friend who wants to visit? that's always been really difficult for me. I kind of have a rule in my house that nobody comes over to my house, so that way people don't feel slighted when I don't invite them. When I go out with my friends, like we go out to coffee, or we go out to a restaurant somewhere, or we go do something together, they don't really come to my house. And thankfully, most of my friends are also that way. They're like, no, you don't come over to my house. We'll go out to a restaurant, but we're not like, you know, you're not going to come over to my house. It's different if you have friends who don't live in the same place, you know, if they live in different parts of the country, then some of my friends have invited me to stay with them, you know, for a few days or for a week or something. I've invited people to stay at my house too, you know, like friends who are out of state. They never come. So I don't know if there's something like, if they just don't put forth the effort to come see me, I always have to go see them. Or if maybe there's something wrong with my house. I don't know. None of them have ever been to my house though. So maybe that's the problem. Saying no to friends is always difficult. It's always, for me, you know, it's like this, almost like an existential crisis, because I always want to make other people happy. I want them to like me, first of all, because, you know, I have a lot of people pleasing problems. So it's difficult for me to say no to people. But I think that it's important to set boundaries with people. Obviously, there's a reason that you don't want them to visit you. And I think that it's important to be honest with them, to be upfront. It's a whole lot easier to make up a story, you know, to make up an excuse, or to blame it on your husband or your kids or your dog. You know, they're eventually going to see through that, right? Because they're not going to stop. And so it's a whole lot easier for you to say something like, listen, my house is kind of my sacred space, and I appreciate that, you know, you want to come and see me. I understand that. I would be okay with you coming for 2 days, or, you know, I'm not really okay with you staying at my house. I don't have enough room, you know, or whatever the reason may be, and suggesting somewhere else for them to stay. If this is somebody that you don't want to be a part of your life, then I think that it's important for you to address why. It's not easy. It's certainly not easy. There are friends in my life that I've had to part ways with. And so it's very awkward and it's difficult to have those conversations. But it's important, because if you don't do it now, you're going to have to do it later, or you're going to have to put up with them invading your space. So, I mean, you really have to make the choice of which difficult do you want to deal with? Do you want to deal with setting boundaries and saying, you know, this is what I need from you, or this is what I can't handle? Or do you want to put up with them being in your house? And is it a day? Is it 2 days? Is it a week? Is it a month? Are they going to show up at your house and never leave? I mean, you really have to think about, you know, what you can deal with. Which difficult do you want to handle?
Learn more about your INFJ personality on my podcast, The Quiet Ones. The Quiet Ones is a weekly show where we dive into understanding self-love, depression, anxiety, and so much more from an INFJ perspective. I offer up in-depth coaching and unmatched empathy. Join me for an amazing personal growth experience. The Quiet Ones podcast is available on all major podcast platforms and at thequietonespodcast.com.
Hi there. I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm working very hard to produce content that will help you, and I really, really appreciate your support. Also, if you want some more inspiration, check out this video right here.